I come here not only as an aspiring social worker, but also somebody who's watched somebody die. I was the primary caregiver of my mother, and I slowly watched her die. This was 2 years ago, and at that time, and even now, there's still nothing that someone in this situation could do to die with dignity. And as an aspiring social worker, we value the dignity and the worth of a person. And with this bill, people who are living with terminal illness could preserve their dignity.
Thank you for hearing this critical piece of legislation. I urge you to pass it. The community overwhelmingly supports it, and just finished my 58th three-day chemo session last week. As you know, that's a very high number. What would be bad is if this option for a peaceful death not be approved.
The Filipino Advocacy Network strongly supports this bill because we believe all individuals should have the right to die with dignity and to have care and choice. I'm a Filipino and raised as a Catholic. I feel that my cultural beliefs are consistent with my support for this bill, and I also believe in the separation of church and state. The states who have enacted similar laws document that there are appropriate safeguards against abuse.
The patients I've cared for who seek aid in dying have taught me a lot about facing one's own death. They love life. They do not fear death, but they do fear prolonged suffering before they die. These patients have been extremely relieved and grateful for having access to aid in dying. They have been able to experience peaceful deaths in their homes surrounded by their family as they chose. The physicians who I've worked with have been extremely cautious in each case to ensure that their patients are doing this of their own free will, they have capacity, and they are indeed terminally ill.
In strong support of this bill, I'm a social worker, a veteran combat medic, I'm a Buddhist, a caregiver, and as a social worker, we're a research-based community. I've looked at the U.S. Constitution, biblical references, the Hippocratic Oath, the positions of the National Association of Social Workers, national and international experiences. A lot of the what-if and worst-case scenarios that were stated earlier have never happened in states that have similar acts.
Physicians are good at determining terminality. For example, nearly 100% of Oregon patients are already enrolled in hospice when they begin to exercise this option. These are horrible diseases: cancer, ALS, AIDS, heart and lung failure, the most common diagnoses for these. It becomes quite clear when the terminal path is entered. Most importantly for you, there is the power to do tremendous good and to alleviate suffering in the face of these horrible diseases. These diseases rob people of their future, their health, and the opportunity to bring back the final chapter and write their own story is tremendously powerful.
I speak in favor of this bill. In the one-year period before my mother passed on 4 years ago, she was in excruciating, debilitating pain. She had been diagnosed with inoperable colon cancer. She then suffered a severe back injury, which rendered her incapable of even getting out of bed. During the months before she died, she kept on telling us, "Why do I have to suffer so much? Why don't they let me die?" Time is long past to pass this bill. Let's do it for the people like my mother who didn't have the opportunity to choose for herself.
I want to share with you a story of John Roberts, who asked me to tell his story. He was a 94-year-old World War II veteran, and I met him when he was living with prostate cancer that had advanced. He began and completed the process laid out in our law with all of its safeguards. And his friend Hal later told me how serene John looked that morning when he self-administered his medication and died on his own terms.
My wife was diagnosed with bile duct cancer about 3 years ago. And when she reached a point where they said there was nothing more that they could do for her, one of the things she said to me was, "I want to go quickly." Those are her exact words. And living in Hawaii, I knew that that wasn't possible unless I took criminal action. And I actually contemplated doing that. And my daughter cried, and she said, "Dad, don't. If you do, I'll lose you and Mom." That really launched me on this campaign, this search for a more compassionate law here in Hawaii.
I am Catholic. I'm also from Oregon, where I work with terminally ill people, their doctors, their hospice, and their families. And I have seen firsthand the comfort and peace of mind that medical aid in dying brings to dying people. The bill before you is modeled after the Oregon law, which has been tested and proven safe for 20 years. The facts demonstrate that in the more than 40 combined years of medical aid in dying in authorized states, that these laws are safe, and there has not been a single instance, not a single instance of coercion or abuse. The Disability Rights Legal Center has declared that medical aid in dying, and I quote, poses no threat to people with disabilities. A national survey showed that a majority of doctors support allowing medical aid in dying for terminally ill patients.
I stand as an individual, Rebecca Soon, in strong support. I'm a Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I'm continuing to be a practicing Catholic. But in no way do I believe that this bill is contrary to my relationship with God. This bill would allow leaving those decisions to the people best suited to make the choice about their own lives. That is the individuals and their doctors who can weigh their own personal moral framework, weigh their own relationship with their faith. Mahalo.
Everyone has talked about hospice, palliative care, and those are excellent choices for end of life. And most of the time, that's sufficient for patients, but not always. If they were, you wouldn't have 80% of Hawaii voters asking for medical aid in dying. Critics bring up the point of doctors should do no harm, primum non nocere. Well, many physicians, myself included, take that mandate to mean it's our duty to respect and honor our patients' wishes as to how, where, and when they wish to die.
My mom died at 45 pounds, and the last thing she said to me is, "No one should have to go through this." My mom was a devout Catholic. She went to church every day, and she just said, "This is unconscionable, and God would not want people to suffer like this." Thank you.